338. Until now, we were talking about where you cut the challah from. Now we're going to talk about when do you actually start to cut challah. And matai botzea, when do you cut? Remember botzea and translating as cut, even though botzea literally means to rip, to separate. On page 338, in the middle of the page, where they're in bold words, the title, top of it, yeah, right there. Bet. מברך תחילה ברכת המוציא לחם מן הארץ. First you make a blessing of המוציא לחם מן הארץ, ואחר שהשלים בברכה בוצע את הפת. And once you finish making the blessing, you cut the bread. כדי שיברך על פת שלמה, so that you can make a blessing on a complete loaf of bread, a whole loaf of bread. וקודם שיתחיל לברך, and before you begin to bless, יחתוך מעט את פרוסת הבציעה, you should cut a little bit the bread. We mentioned this in Shulchan Aruch. כדי שלא יפסיק וישאר הרבה בבציעת הפת בין הברכה לבין הטעימה. So you won't spend a lot of time between the cutting and the eating. I see this in everybody's house. Mechila, you have to fix this. It's a problem. When people cut challah, they do that. They take their knife and they start cutting, and cutting, and they're slicing this way, and slicing this way.
And starvation.
And they didn't eat yet. They didn't eat yet. You cut the bread, you have to eat challah right away.
Yeah.
Take a piece and eat it. Then cut the bread as much time as you want. But you must immediately, just like when you make a ha'etz, you don't say borei ha'etz and then start cutting up the apple. You take a piece of the apple and eat it, and then you cut up your apple. Or cut up the apple and then make a ha'etz. But you can't wait that much time between the bracha. Like also by kiddush, people start pouring in a little cup. So first drink, you don't want to drink from the cup because you don't want to pass around your germs. Go do what I do. Pour it in another cup.
Yeah.
You drink from your cup and give that cup to the people to pour around.
Yeah.
But there's no reason why you should wait so long between the bracha and the tasting of the wine or the hamutzi.
So you're saying that people just like little things.
Well, we're gonna see that.
Did he just say you have to make a real cut in the bread? That it's not real whole bread anymore.
We're gonna see that. ויחתוך באופן ישוקד in such a fashion שאם יאחז וירים בידו את הפרוסה לבדה יעלה שאר הכרם בפרוסה. You should cut in such a way that if you would lift a piece of bread, the rest of the loaf would come along with it. Meaning, don't make a complete slice. Just a beginning of a cut. אבל אם חותך יותר מכך, but if you cut more than that, נחשב הדבר כאילו אין הפת שלמה. It's as if the bread is not complete. So you're making hamotzi, not in a complete piece of bread.
Well, is the idea really to make kind of a cut, or is the idea to like just score it or mark it? Is the whole idea just to make a marking almost?
Marking the bread.
That's what a lot of people I've seen do.
They do it, but what?
They go like.
Look again at Maran on page 336. Maran. Second line in Maran after the Rashi script. ויחתוך פרוצת הבציעה. You should cut a slice from the bread. וצריך לחתוך מעט, but you should only cut a little bit. שאם יאחוז בפרוסה יעלה שאר כרימות. That if you hold a slice of bread, it won't fall off from the rest of the bread. שאם לא כן חשוב כפרוס, because if not for that, the bread is considered sliced bread.
Oh, so really it's supposed to almost sever it, so it's like it's almost completely cut.
No, you have to be careful that if you lift that slice, the rest of the loaf comes with it. So not almost completely severing.
So that's why they mark it.
30%, 40%.
That's why they go.
Yeah, I'll say 30%.
Well, they go through the motions of marking it. Like they use a knife.
Let me ask you this: the people who do the motion of cutting it, when they do hamutzi, they cut at that spot.
No, usually it's just a marking.
Right.
It's a different spot.
The whole purpose of cutting this is so that immediately when you say hamutzi, you continue that slice. The whole point is that it shouldn't be that when you make hamutzi, oh, now where do I cut from? Do I cut here? Do I cut there? You already decided where you're going to cut, and then you say hamutzi and you finish that slice.
And you do this all after motzi. You mark
do
it.
the mark before hamutzi.
You mark it, and then you do it, and then you actually eat after.
Right.
Cut it in. But it should be a beginning of the cut, but not too deep.
Correct. And when you do hamutzi afterward, when you start cutting after hamutzi, you should be cutting from that place where you mark the bread.
Yeah.
Mostly I've seen it just like a glance and go like.
And then what do they do?
Nothing. Then they say it, and then they cut it.
Right, like Zev told us last time. Most people just do this because that's what they taught the people do.
Yeah,
They don't even know what they're doing.
But
Thought-
it doesn't
They
even
don't
look
know the
on
halacha.
bread.
They just.
Right, they just like touch the bread.
No, I imagine the breads probably were thicker, unless it was like pita, because they didn't have I don't think they have processed white flour.
Don't ruin it for us, bro. You're right. Look at the next halakha.
Oh,
Oh, very smart.
339. Uvdiavad, and after the fact, im lo chatach et hapusat klav, you didn't cut the pre-slice the bread at all. And ze ma'akev, it's no problem. It doesn't hold you back from saying hamotzi. Af al pi sheshohe b'ptziat hapad b'nochal tima. Even though you're waiting some time between the blessing and the tasting, meaning if you didn't pre-slice the bread, it's okay. It happens. You just, you go on. Now that's if it happens. Can you intentionally not pre-slice the bread? Look on page 340.
imagine.
.340 V'im hapat raka biyoter. And if you're dealing with very soft bread, baruch like a pita or a lafa, as opposed to a loaf of bread that has a crispy outside. Yes? שכאשר בוצע אינו שוהה בפציעה לזמן מועט ביותר, that once you say hamotzi, it really just takes a moment before you could rip off a piece and eat it. And there's no intense cutting needed. There, you can ideally not make any pre-slicing. You just rip off the piece after you say hamotzi. That seems to be the reason why in my family we don't have a minhag to make a pre-slice on bread. We didn't need chalot.
When you were making those big, soft loaves, I noticed you did it with those too.
Right afterwards, I rip off a piece
Yeah.
because there's nothing that when you cut a challah, sometimes it's crispy. Like you try to cut a knife, it doesn't go. So you go this way. When it comes to lafa or a pita, right away you can cut bread. Think about the difference in slicing a baguette and slicing a tortilla. It's very different.
The whole idea is to do it quickly, so just a matter of time.
Correct. So in a type of bread that you could cut easily, you don't have to pre-slice it all. Now all of this, do you remember? All of this is talking about weekdays. Remember that?
Really?
That's what Maran was saying about weekdays. But we'll get there. Look at the next halakha.
Who eats bread during the week?
Himen lo lechem shalem. If you don't have a whole loaf of bread. Af al pi ken, even though, nonetheless, ראוי שלא יחתוך הפת לפניו לגמרי קודם שתיהם הברכה. So what if you don't have a loaf of bread? There's an ideal to make a bracha on a whole loaf of bread as opposed to a slice of bread. Let's say you have half a loaf of bread. Then you also shouldn't just cut off a slice. I mean, you should ideally not make brachot on a slice of bread. Rather, even on a half a loaf. The larger the piece of bread, the better it is.
Could make it on a slice of bread?
Guess they
You
didn't
could
have
make it on a slice of bread?
bread.
But let's say you have a choice. You have a loaf of bread. You can either make hamotzi on the loaf and then take off a slice, or you could slice the bread and then make hamotzi on your slice. It's better to make hamotzi on the loaf and then take off a slice, as opposed to, even though it's not a full loaf of bread. The bigger, the better in this case. Now, what happens if you forgot to cut the bread?
What?
You forgot to pre-slice the bread, and now you're in the middle of the blessing of hamotzi.
I imagine it's okay, but not preferable.
So we said it's okay. Let's say you have enough time. You're making the bracha slow enough. And in that situation, you now are thinking maybe I can make my slice while I'm saying the bracha.
No, not while you're making the bracha.
Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam. I forgot. Let's start slicing the bread.
No,
No, why not?
because you're interrupting the bracha.
You're not focusing on the
Oh,
other-
really? Interruption is not an interruption. I'm saying the blessing, but focus, and that's what
Well,
I
I
meant to say.
mean, that's what I
You're
mean.
not focusing on the blessing of
Of the
hamotzi.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing.
But you just said that you're right.
A lot of people, many people, you see this, they forget to put out salt. They forget to, and they do all kinds of things during the blessing of hamotzi. You shouldn't do anything hamotzi. Just say hamotzi. Zeh. We find by all the traditions when you shake love and it all during the Hallel, let's say. When you say Hashem's name, nobody moves at all. Hodu Ladonai Kitov. By Hashem's name, everyone stands still. Ana Adonai Oshiana, by Hashem's name, everyone stays still. When you say Kadosh Baruch Hu's name, you have to have kavanah. All the things in the world, they don't make a difference at that point when you're saying Hashem. Sometimes I see Mohalim, when they're doing the Milah, they're doing all kinds of things while they're making brachot, they're bandaging, wait a second, it's okay to wait. It's okay to wait. The baby's screaming anyway, it's like it's not going to help if you shouldn't be doing anything when you make a bracha. Yeah. בשבת. Oh, sorry. Dad. אם לא חתך הלחם כלל, if you didn't cut the bread at all, קודם שהתחיל before you made a blessing. נכון יותר, it's more proper שלא יחתכנו בתוך כדי שמברך. You shouldn't start slicing the bread while you're saying the blessing, is what we just said. מפני שצריך לכוון כראוי בשעה שברך, because you have to have the proper כוונה when you bless. ואין זה ראוי לעסוק בשום דבר באותה שעה, and it's improper to be doing anything else while you're saying the blessing.
That's a general rule.
By all brachot, yes.
It is stringent.
No, that's by saying a bracha, you have kavanah. For example, you see a lot of people. I have a list of kilkulim, of mistakes people make. So not just a mistake of making a bracha after you wash your hands. Those that mistakenly make a bracha after they wash their hands, watch them. Watch what they do while they're making the bracha. They're drying their hands, they're walking around, there's Shabbat Shalom to people with their hair, they're all kinds of... Instead of paying attention to the bracha, when you do a bracha properly before you wash your hands, what do you have to do? Nothing. You went, Baruch Adon Asher, Netilat Yadayim, and then you go wash your hands. Dry your hands afterwards. But the people, while they're making the bracha, after they wash their hands, not just are they making a bracha at the wrong time, they're also making a bracha while they're drying their hands.
Or pulling the paper towels down.
Yeah.
I see that all the time. People get distracted.
The ladies are putting their rings back. It's a busha. It's embarrassing.
The thing is, I mean, you're right in practice, but the idea is to focus on the whole time as being part of the mitzvah of washing your hands. So it's not just saying the bracha, but it's drying your hands and...
But there's
It's a
nothing
nice
you have to
idea.
be doing while you're drying your hands.
No,
There's no special kavanah while you're drying your hands.
but
The
I
only
mean,
time to
what's-
have kavanah is when you make a blessing. It's one of the
The
10
actual
commandments. Do not say my name in vain. Part of not saying Hashem's name in vain is not doing anything.
What if
while
you
it's
have
not
But
perfect.
I mean, the whole process is the mitzvah.
It's not.
Okay, so that's the way the Ashkenazim.
It's not. I would argue with you on that.
Okay. Well, I know you would.
No,
But
the
they
Ashkenazi
think-
rabbis were not stupid. Please, I'm very particular about this. And the Ashkenazi rabbis were not stupid. They would not consider. They would tell you also by Hashem's name you have to have kavanah. There's no such thing.
Right.
So by Hashem's name, don't dry your hands. That's what I'm complaining about.
People are just not
But
following there. They think they're following the halacha, but they're really they're
What
just-
about?
I'm
you
not
have, like,
talking here
what they
washing
saw.
before or after. I'm talking here even those who make a bracha after.
What about when you have like
They
20,
shouldn't-
30
they shouldn't
people
dry their hands.
who are washing, and yours?
Okay,
Is it
so-
the time between the time you wash your hands and you make motzi? I mean, are you really in perfect kavanah between like one thing part and another? I mean, some of the stuff I've seen over the years is just like absurd. You have tables of 100 people. By the time everyone washes, and people are trying to stay quiet, and are they really having kavanah on the motzi from the time they wash their hands? They probably don't even remember when they wash their hands by the time they get around to it.
I think, I mean, it depends on the group, but the problem is they go through these motions of
Yeah, exactly.
like that.
Exactly.
So
I can't imagine
know,
you have a bunch of Ashkenazi Talmidei Chachamim in the room playing charades with each other.
Well,
I couldn't imagine. And here,
Sounds
this is
like
not an
3 words.
Ashkenazi Sephardic thing. That's what I'm trying to say here. Here is those who understand what they're doing, and those who don't. The problem of consciousness in Judaism is a real problem. We live in a world where nobody knows what they're doing. You guys, why are you doing what you're doing? I don't know. Look, we're talking about the slicing of the bread. Anybody know why they're slicing the bread? Maybe they think it's a
Custom.
Kabbalistic thing that they it's
Everything
like
is a custom.
waving the magic wand over there. Who knows what they're doing?
My rabbi doesn't like this. This is our custom.
Right, but what's the purpose?
Yeah. No one actually looks it up.
Here is where the question is. Being consciousness while doing mitzvot. Maran holds the halacha that if you are doing a mitzvah, but you don't know why you're doing that mitzvah, you don't get any credit for doing the mitzvah. Yes, were there rabbis who argued with him? Yes. But Maran rules according to the Chachamim that hold mitzvot shechot kavanah. If you don't know why you're doing a mitzvah, it doesn't count. If when you put on tzitzit or tefillin and you're not thinking, why am I putting on tzitzit? Why am I wearing tefillin? Why am I lighting candles? Why am I eating kosher? You're not thinking those. Doesn't count for anything. So there are rabbis who say let's judge Am Yisrael favorably. We're ruling after the fact, like the rabbis who say you still get credit for things even if you don't think about them. But we're living in a very strange time of people who don't know what they're doing, but they've been taught that going through the motions alone is enough. That's what we do. No. People yesterday were not keeping mitzvot. Tomorrow they tell them do this, X, Y, and Z. You don't know everything. You'll figure it out as you go along. What's the value in figuring it out as you go along? What's the value in living? And then people wonder why the next generation will always run somewhere else. They go to Buddhism. They go to some spiritual place. We recently met somebody. She goes to church. She's Jewish. She goes there because over there she says, listen, it's the first place that I go that's inspiration.
Yeah, well, it's too bad.
Meaning, they're telling us that our community is void of consciousness. Nobody knows what they're doing. And there's just a bunch of people going through the motions. And when you start to talk about, like, you should think about, meditate about a mitzvah before you look, you're like, you're crazy. Meditate? What are you, you want us to do yoga in the Beit Knesset too? No, our Chachamim were from the first, if not the first people, to say that every action comes along with a thought process. And we're the people who abandon that. Where it's a bunch of skeletons without any souls. If you can imagine the extreme are people who meditate on things for hours. Remember the Hasidim, Arishonim, the early meditated for hours on tefillah. They put any meditator to shame. You think that's a meditation? Come pray with the rabbis of the Talmud. Rabbi Akiva. They say by the time Rabbi Akiva finished praying, he was on the other side of the room from when he started. From bowing down and getting up, the dvekut, the clinging to Hashem that he experienced when he prayed. Nobody could experience such a thing. Today, go to tefillah. You're lucky if you get 3 minutes in Amidah, and most people take like 3 minutes. But I read, and someone put an article. One second. This is worth me showing you. Someone did the math of the words per minute, how many words human beings can say per minute, and based on that, how long tefillah should take in a Beit Knesset. I will send it to our Google Classroom too. Someone just sent this to me.
And how short it is. Yeah, so even radio personalities, people are not as fast as, no one's as fast as a radio personality, and it's probably still, davening still taking faster than they could do it, right?
They compared it to auctioneers.
Oh, auctioneers? They compared auctioneers? Wow,
I'm
that's
actually
even
going to
better.
send this to you now, so you can look at it on your phone. So what we're saying now is Dvarim Homdim B'Romo Shona. It's very important. Let me load my classroom, and I'll send it.
Wow. Yeah, you can find auctioneers on Facebook. Download one of them, see how fast they talk. Very fast.
How do you stop?
Yeah.
I just sent it to the Google Classroom, so it should pop up on your phone instead. Now this is also going with an Ashkenazi Siddur. It says Nusach Sephardi, Nusach Ashkenazi. My assumption is not Sephardic. It's like Hasidic versus Ashkenazi. So that means it's a shorter Nusach than Sephardic. Meaning, if Ashkenazim are supposed to take 45 minutes, by us probably could add 10 minutes to that. So just, everyone get this picture that I sent out? Check your Google Classroom. It'll pop up on your Google Classroom.
Tefillah time.
Oh, I sent you as an email.
I sent it as an announcement in the Google
Yeah.
Classroom. It'll probably come up as an email if you
Alright.
subscribe to it.
There it
Okay. So the average speed of conversation is 110 to 150 words per minute. Audiobooks are recited at 150 to 160 words per minute. and auctioneers talk at a rate of 250 to 400 words per minute. I actually saw a documentary recently on auctioneers, like a short. They have a bunch of filler words that they put in between the words, like the stuff that you hear. Every auctioneer has his own stuff. Between the numbers, they have like all these like, like they add in things there. So let's say Psukei de Zimra, okay? So you come to Beit Knesset, they start with Psukei de Zimra. There are 2,064 words in Psukei de Zimra. If you are saying them in a slow conversation at 110 words per minute, it should take you 18.7 minutes. If you say them in the average conversation, 130 words per minute, it should take you 15.8 minutes. If you say them in a fast conversation pace, it should take you 13.8 minutes, and if you say them at a slow auctioneer, that's 250 words per minute.
Yeah.
A slow auctioneer should take 8.3 minutes to say the Psukei de Zimra. Let's take the Amidah for a moment.
8.3 minutes.
Yeah.
Let's take the Sfarad.
That's probably about
Amidah.
for most of us.
Yeah.
If you say the Amidah, the Shemona Esrei, in a slow conversation, it should take you 7.5 minutes.
Where's the Amidah?
It says Shemona Esrei. Look at like four lines down. It's 824 words.
Oh,
I see.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It was off screen, that's all.
If you say the Shemona Esrei, it should take you in a slow conversation 7.4 minutes. In an average conversation, it should take you 6.3 minutes. In a fast conversation, 5.5 minutes. A slow auctioneer could say the Amidah in 3.3 minutes.
Wow.
Oh,
Okay.
Which makes you wonder how there are people who can say the Amidah in 1.5 minutes.
Yeah.
nobody does.
When an auctioneer can say the Amidah in 3.3 minutes, and nobody in the Beit Knesset could talk as fast as an auctioneer.
So how do you deal with a chazan or a leader who goes too fast?
Print this out. Carry 5 copies of these in your
But
trolley
I got this
bag
from
and-
a synagogue rabbi who posted this in his synagogue. Look at the bottom. Total time for regular day from Psukei de Zimra till after Uval Lisyon, including the Kaddish. Yeah, so that's not including Aleinu, I guess, like running out the door by Aleinu. In Nusach Sfarad, it should take you 54 minutes in a slow conversation, or 45 minutes if you're an average conversation, 40 minutes in a fast conversation, and 24 minutes if you're an auctioneer. Nusach Ashkenaz is following that. Nusach Sfarad should take you 61 minutes if you're having a slow conversation, 52 minutes in an average conversation, and the fastest an auctioneer could do would be 27.2 minutes. Somehow you have minyanim. There was once a place I was in. It was the 7-minute Shachrit minyan. Do you know what 7 minutes Shachrit is? Nobody's praying in that minyan. What's the point of that?
Yeah.
I guess you go down to fill in, say the Shema, and
You're
go.
done. You go home.
Yeah.
But the Amidah. People are begging for an Amidah to have a few minutes to say the Amidah. And it's interesting. You actually look around the room, and the people who know how to read Hebrew, they take longer to say the Amidah.
Down here.
Those who don't know how to read Hebrew, somehow they got through it in half a second. And I've never met the Chazan who could say the Amidah as
45.
fast out loud as he could say it quietly. So the Chazan who takes 3 steps back after 2 minutes, when he does the repetition, it takes him 10 minutes. How? Why?
Fast
He
conversation.
was-
Meaning, okay, he's saying a little slower? Fine, so it should take him 9 minutes in his time with Amidah.
And that's usually takes
How come it takes you so
45,
slow when you say it out loud?
45
Because probably when you're praying quietly, you didn't say it at all.
It's too fast.
You skip the step and cut a corner.
Your average minyan on a regular day should take you an
45
hour.
is what it usually
A minyan that
takes.
is less than an hour is flying through tefillah.
It's fast conversation.
And you're saying starting from Psukei de Zimra? That means no blessed Birkot HaShachar
That people are
beforehand. There's no morning anything. There's no talit. There's no tefillin. This doesn't count any of that time.
Yeah. This is interesting.
It's an interesting
Yeah.
chart. All it's saying, it should give food for thought. Nothing. I'm not here to guilt anybody about anything. Why do we get to how long fast people pray? You mentioned about kavanah. You live in a Jewish community where kavanah is not a thing. It shouldn't surprise you. There are people who want to run away from the Beit Knesset to pray. You know, there are people who just they want to stay home and pray.
So just getting back to the original
Yes.
topic here, I just wondered, before you include the Ashkenazic view of washing your hands,
I did include it.
you
I included it.
You included it, but
Yes.
I thought you made it sound like you can't dry your hands because the original Ashkenazic leaders
You can't dry your hands while you're
while
saying
you're
a
saying
blessing.
the blessing.
Period.
So what is wrong with not drying your hands, but washing your hands first? Keeping your hands out is part of the bracha.
John, I'm not coming to address here whether or not you should make a blessing first or after.
Okay.
I'm saying,
You're
according
just
to
saying-
those who say it's okay to make a blessing after you wash your hands, even they hold that you cannot do anything while you're saying the blessing
Right,
after you wash your
okay,
hands.
that I understand.
But then those people though that make a blessing afterwards, they're
Yeah,
probably not having
usually-
kavanah either.
Because they're not mindful.
That's right. So mindfulness is, I think, what needs to be
Yeah.
introduced.
Right.
To understand what you're saying, to understand what you're praying, to understand why you're doing mitzvot. Educate yourself. Why am I doing the mitzvah? It's coming Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippurim. Why do we blow shofar? Why do I take Levan Torah? Why?
Yeah.
I've been doing this for so many years. Why?
People
Why
don't
wearing
have-
white? Why am I?
People don't have literacy, they don't know what book to look in, I mean, it's not easy. For me,
You're right.
for
It's
myself.
not easy.
So-
So the fact that it's not easy for the regular Jew, I appreciate and I understand that. The fact that nobody has pushed the Jewish community. I'm talking about leadership. That how could you come to Rosh Hashanah not knowing why you're doing what you're doing? Where are the people who have pushed the people to be mindful? I'm not blaming the people who don't have access to the literature. Where are those who are supposed to be guiding people to it?
We have to teach literacy so people
Yeah.
can figure out things for themselves.
But
Or
t-
with guidance, of course.
Correct. Today you have a tremendous amount of material in English. Tremendous amount. Some of it is even free on the internet today. Before you read Rabbi A, Y, or Z about Teshuvah, did you come to Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur? Have you read the Rambam's laws of Teshuvah? It's a classic. Those are laws, real laws. Study it. It's a few chapters. They have it in English for free on Safari. Chabad.org has the entire Rambam for free with commentary. Okay, it's a Chabad commentary. So what? You have the opportunity today. You could finish. Forget Shulchan Aruch. Put Shulchan Aruch away because it's not in for. Jack, because certain chapters are in English and certain chapters are not. You can finish the entire Rambam from A to Z for free on the internet without ever buying a book. In English,
Chabad even has it on MP3.
to listen
You
to.
can
You know what I'm telling you? You live in a world where there are things that are accessible. Talmud. You want to study Talmud? You don't have to study the whole Talmud. There's no benefit in finishing the whole Talmud. Choose a few key tractates. Shabbat, Brachot. You want to learn about the holidays. Megillah, Rosh Hashanah. You could choose tractates maybe a little more interesting to you. It could be tractates like Kiddushin, about marriage, or Gittin, about devote, whatever tractate you want. Forget Art Scroll. You have Rabbi Steinsaltz has donated his entire English translation of the Talmud to Sefaria for free. You get yourself a phone or a computer or an iPad and you just click on it. Other organizations are still selling you Hebrew English versions of PDF. You have them for Nechama Leibowitz. You want to study Chumash in a little more advanced setting than you have studied before? Yes, it's a modern commentary, yes. You can study today the writings of Professor Nechama Leibowitz for free on Sefaria. Her foundation, I guess, donated the entire commentary to the app. You want to study Kabbalah? There are books of Kabbalah, books of Halakha. There's no excuse anymore not to know. How could a person come and I'll tell you, we're carried away by other things. Someone asked me now, they told me I should come to class about dating advice according to such and such rabbi's methodology. Listen, I don't know. I'm not here to date. Many people need dating advice. But if you want to go to a Torah class, go to a Torah class. Dating advice is not a Torah class. Go study something, know something, put Torah under your belt. You're studying Shulchan Aruch. Look, you now are going to go to the Shabbat table, and you're going to be the only person who knows why you're slicing bread in the first place. Nobody even knows. And everybody you know does that thing with a knife on the bread. Just ask them, hey, why do you do it? I don't want to ask you to ask the rabbi why he does it. They may not know either. That's the scary part. The idea that Judaism needs to be thought out. We have a very deep tradition. I like the word that Jack used, mindfulness. To be mindful of what you're doing. Our rabbis worked so hard to try to instill that mindfulness in us. And somehow we went back to, what the prophet says.
Mechanical.
What does Hashem say to the prophet? He says, you come to me, to my house of prayer. Your lips are praying to me, but your heart is distant from me. Why do I need your lips? I need you to mumble a prayer at me. Hashem doesn't need you to say the whole Siddur for Shacharit. Hashem needs you to say whatever you need to say in the Siddur that you understand that you're praying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's an order in tefillah. I see people sometimes they come, they're starting korbanot, patach Eliyahu Nevi Zechor Tov, the selected passages of the Zohar, da da da. By the time they get to Shema Yisrael, to the Amidah, which are the main parts of the tefillah, they're already tired. They have no concentration anymore. Say the main parts of tefillah first, and go afterwards. Say whatever Zohar you want to say afterwards. In my opinion, there are entire parts of the tefillah that are not as important, in my opinion, as the 13 principles of the Rambam that you say afterwards. Those 13 principles of faith, whether you say the Ashkenazi version, the Ani Mamin, or the Sephardic version, doesn't make a difference. Those 13 principles are more important than half of the tefillot you force yourself to say in the siddur. It's about being mindful. Imagine how many Jews, hey, can you tell me what the 10 commandments are? Can you tell me what the 13 principles of faith are? What about the 6 constant mitzvot, or 10, depending who you ask? The 6 constant mitzvot you have to think about all day, or else you're not considered a Jew who's believing in the mitzvot. There are 6 mitzvot. Do you know what they are? So what do you walk around with the kippah on for? You can wear a kippah with a construction symbol on it. Work in progress. That's okay. But then before you start being mitgaeh, before you're arrogant towards other people, oh, he's not religious. Then maybe you shouldn't say anything first. The reason I'm saying now is not to knock anybody, it's to push you. Mamash, you live in a world, it's not even 5 years ago when we started this kollel, you didn't have apps like Sefer. You didn't have some of the things that I'm talking about now, we didn't have them when we started the kollel.
I didn't know that.
So these are new, mamash, new things. You have the ability to learn an unbelievable amount of information. We have a library here. Look, Mishnah Bua, translated. It's the whole 6 volumes of Mishnah Bua, translated into English. With the Hebrew on one side. So if you wanted to see the Hebrew for yourself, you can. We have here the commentary of the Ramban. You all read Rashi 1,000 times. What about the Ramban? The Moshe ben Nachman. It's a classic medieval commentary. It's there, art script. Okay, they skipped the Kabbalah part. It's fine. So their idea is if you can understand Kabbalah, then you can understand the Hebrew on your own too. Sever Chinuch, the 613 commandments. Every week you just take the book. You go through. It's here for you to use. You go through what are the mitzvot in the week's parasha. Here. This is from somebody who was in the lineage of the Rambam. That's his approach to the Chumash. Why not? There's nothing holding you back. Watch a little bit less news. Get a little bit off of Facebook. I know some people here are signed up to emails for halakha, emails for... That's the best thing you can do. Imagine you get a mitzvah for checking your emails. Not just a mitzvah. You actually learn in your email. You work with your Yetzirah. So you can't sit down and open a book because you fall asleep. So you know how to check your emails? Do it. And Baruch has a list of them afterwards. There's a page, a newsletter. I was in Rabbi Ben Zakin's synagogue. It comes from Israel. It's in English. It's the Daf Yomi of the week summarized in English. It's one pamphlet, 2 pages. You can learn the whole Shas by just subscribing to this newsletter. You don't even have to open the Talmud. It's like imagine the essential Daf Yomi reader. You can finish the Talmud. I don't know what it's called. I have to get the exact name for it.
There's several of them.
There's several of those. It's unbelievable what you can learn today. There's no reason why we should be doing mitzvot without any knowledge or any connection to them. And harder for me is to see how many Jewish people leave the Jewish houses of study or the houses of prayer because they find mindfulness somewhere else. Because you can get a much more inspirational prayer service, Chaz Shalom, in the church than you can in the synagogue. I happen to think that some people are looking in the wrong places. I do happen to think that. And I happen to think that some people are studying in the wrong places too. That's fine. But imagine if someone knew that you could come to the Knesset and study Torah on the level that a PhD student is researching something in university. Imagine if they could know such a thing. There are Talmidei Chachamim that really teach Torah. Really, really, really.